Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're talking about the latest video game from CD Projekt Red called Cyberpunk 2077. This much anticipated RPG first-person shooter type game is actually still a couple years away from being released, but the hype in the last month or two has really been big. First there was the initial trailer released earlier this summer at E3, and then later more news came out more recently at Gamescom. And then just last week, Cyberpunk got engrossed in a big SJW driven controversy, which they then followed up by releasing 48 minutes of gameplay footage just yesterday, probably in an effort to smooth things over after their kerfuffle. Let me explain, but first, check out the game real quick. It looks pretty sweet.
We've greatly enhanced our crowd and community systems to create the most believable city in any open world game to date. The city's streets are bustling with crowds of people from all facets of life, all living their lives within a full day and night cycle.
You see, much like how the new Doom game was getting shit for goofing on the radical leftists a few weeks ago with their comments about illegal immigration, well, Cyberpunk made a similar move last week on Twitter. On Monday, August 20th, the official Cyberpunk 2077 account replied to someone jokingly saying, "Did you just assume their gender?" which prompted a huge wave of angry responses from butthurt social justice warriors who can't take a joke, apparently. The tweet obviously referenced feminists and LGBTQ pushers, who actually do say shit like this from time to time. Pretty often. This was clearly just a goof on them, but we all know the left can't take a joke. Next, Cyberpunk made the fatal error of trying to appease SJWs, even offering them an apology saying, "Sorry to all those offended by one of the responses sent out from our account earlier. Harming anyone was never our intention. And quite frankly, I think this apology is not necessary at all. And it's only just gonna rile up the lefties even worse," as it eventually did. More complaints started pouring in after this, saying Cyberpunk wasn't sorry enough. You just can't win with joke policing people like this. And that's why Cyberpunk shouldn't have even tried. I mean, look at this horrific response from someone with the handle Juniper, who tweeted, "Harming anyone was never our intention. Wow, that's a non-apology. Boy, I can't wait to see what sort of transphobic nonsense the actual game has in it that gamers will throw around as hilarious jokes." First of all, this joke was only in a tweet. It's not in the game at all. And secondly, everything is not transphobic. People are just goofing on some of the more ridiculous trans people who say shit like, "Did you assume gender?" Because that's a real thing people have done. And if they're going to be that silly publicly, then we have a right to laugh at them, don't we? Next, this whole situation led to a pretty interesting interview with the Cyberpunk team, an interview they did with Eurogamer, who, in light of this recent controversy, started to make the whole interview about trans rights, 57 genders, and non-binary SJW bullshit. It's really a sight to see, truly. They ask almost no legit questions about the game, its mechanics, its story, or anything relevant. All Eurogamer really cares about is social justice warrior nonsense. So, with that said, let's go ahead and check their article out, shall we? The story's called The Big Cyberpunk 2077 Interview, CD Projekt on Transhumanism, Gender Fluidity, and What's Beyond Night City's Walls. And if you skip past the introduction stuff, which we already went over, you can see at the bottom here the writer is pretty biased already, saying, "Fans of the genre have begun wondering how accurately CD Projekt will reflect the diverse classes and character options of both the original Cyberpunk 2020 pen and paper game, or how it will deal with topics such as transhumanism that are at the heart of the cyberpunk genre in general." A recent now deleted tweet from the developer which referenced a transphobic meme did absolutely nothing to help matters. You see what I'm talking about, right? Unless you are absolutely 100% on board with kissing trans people and their issues asses, you are automatically labeled transphobic, a word which I take umbrage with on its own. You see, transphobic sounds like you have an irrational fear of trans people, like the similar words arachnophobic or agoraphobic, meaning fear of spiders or outdoors respectively. But no, that's not how transphobic works at all, because it's just a made-up lefty word used to slam anyone they deem as wrong thinkers. Anyone that says anything wrong about trans is automatically labeled this. It's very similar to what they do with the word Islamophobic, and I don't like either one. Next, during the questioning round, Eurogamer immediately leans in to talk about the genders in the game. The one change that the demo did have is you can now play as male V as well. I was interested to see that regardless of the gender, you always seem to wake up in the morning with a male companion. Weber then answers, the Cyberpunk representative. In this demo at least, you will always wake up to another man, so we can show different kinds of relationships will be a part of the game, and players will be able to choose what kind of character they want to play. Right, including the character creator, which we got a glimpse of at the demo start. How far along is that? Is the version we saw close to what we'll see in the final game, or do you have a lot of options yet to add in? Weber says, "I think it reflects our intention for what we want to do, but definitely it's still in development. I expect there will be changes, some more interesting things, but I would say it reflects our general intention for what we want to give you in the final game." Wow, I think we can see where this is going already. Great. Eurogamer is sounding pretty focused on gender, clearly, fixating on the person you wake up with being male every time. Oh, what a crime, huh? If it was a girl, this would be fine, but screw men, am I right? And then the pivot to the character creator too? I assume that was so this interviewer can talk about the genders and gay, blue-haired, disabled, minority options or something. Let's see. I asked because the option in it is to play as male or female character type. If someone wanted to choose a character who was gender fluid, how would you portray that? You know, as an example in the character creation, you can do that by not calling the type of body you choose man or woman, but just title it body type. And then from a male or female body type, you can, on this basis, choose how to make your character. I didn't write it down when watching the demo, but are they labeled male and female in there currently? I think the way it is right now, we're not saying either. We're basically showing it to you and you choose which of the bodies you have as the basis and then go and make the character. Jesus Christ, Eurogamer. Get a grip, dude. What even is a gender fluid body type anyway? I don't get this. Sounds like Cyberpunk has two standard types to start you off from, male or female, and news alert guys, those also happen to be the two genders. The only two genders, I might add. If someone is gender fluid, they're just in between the two, if that's even a real thing. So if this SJW wanted to create a character like that, then they would just pick one and then modify it from there. Easy peasy. No need for all this fuss. And there's certainly no need for this gender non-binary line of questioning. It keeps going on, and unfortunately, it looks like Eurogamer is going to continue it too. Beyond the aesthetics, could you choose to have a different pronoun? Is that an option in the game? I honestly don't know yet. What I can say was that it was part of Cyberpunk 2020, but how exactly we'll do it in Cyberpunk 2077, I don't know yet, but it is definitely a thing we are aware of. I know plenty of fans who would appreciate that, and after all, you have a main character with the name that doesn't specify any gender. Well, exactly. That's why we chose that name, because V works for male, works for female, and we thought it would be a good option. For gender fluid as well? Yeah. Come on, man. Enough with the gender fluid bullcrap. Gender fluid, gender queer, and non-binary? That's all bullshit to me. They're all just bullshit code words SJWs use to try and sound special. In my opinion, you're either born a man or you're born a woman. If you aren't sure which one you are, just check your privates and move on from there. And I really can't believe I have to explain this, but yeah, if you have a dick, you're a dude. And if you have a front hole, you're a woman. And that's about it. Sure, you can dress different or grow your hair out or put makeup on. Hell, you can even get breast implants and cut your dick off. But regardless, you're still what you were born, male or female. Maybe you can call yourself trans, but that doesn't really change much. Not to me. In reality, people who are trying to claim they're gender fluid, they're really just trying to get attention. They can't cope with being normal and like everyone else, so they use made up words to make things different and difficult. And honestly, I think gender fluid became a way for regular gay people to try and keep up with the trans gay people. Trans having been getting much more attention lately, so gays just had to do gender fluid stuff to try and keep up. But back to the Eurogamer interview. They have yet to ask about anything that's not related to gender and SJW stuff. No relevant questions people really care about. Just nonsense about gender fluid body types and pronouns. And as for Cyberpunk using a gender neutral name like V, even though that may sound like they're caving into the left already, it's actually a pretty common thing to do in video games. Anyway, many protagonists have gender neutral names to make things easier, especially if that game gives you the male or female option at the beginning. Bethesda's Prey game did the same kind of thing last year, and I'm really getting the feeling this Cyberpunk game is like a Bethesda Fallout style game anyway, only it's being set in a cyberpunk future setting, of course. And unfortunately, yahoos like the Eurogamer writer aren't happy with the current gender options. They sound like they would want the gender fluid option at the start too, and then next the SJWs would want a furry option, and then an undocumented immigrant option, and even a pedo one day. It really never ends with these kind of loons. They will never be happy, not until they ruin all our favorite spaces.
Come on, lighten up. Have a whiff. Better.
In the end, luckily for Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red has a big enough reputation that's great and will help it bounce back from this. Sure, it seems like they caved in a little bit here, giving in to some of the SJW's demands, but you can't blame them for trying either. They're going for a big, worldwide, epic release for this game, so it makes sense for them to cast the widest net possible. And you also have to admit, in some ways this transgender stuff does fit in with the transhumanism stuff, seen in most Cyberpunk games and movies like this. Kinda like what comes up in Blade Runner. You see, in the modern era, it's transitioning genders, and in the future, according to these stories, people are going to transition into machines, and vice versa. There's a good parallel there, I must admit, but at the same time, it's pretty ridiculous for the SJWs to get all PC about this stuff already, way before the game's even out, and all over a joke tweet that's not even in this game. Can't wait to see how triggered they get when there's actual lines of dialogue and jokes and references in the actual game. The left could blow a casket on this one. Leave it to the trans, liberal, gender fluid, non-binaries to make it all about them, I guess. I don't know why I'm even still surprised. What do you guys think? Is Cyberpunk going to be an awesome game? Looks pretty sweet to me. I watched some of the new footage too, and the graphics and style are undeniably amazing. What do you guys think about the SJWs coming after Cyberpunk over all this? Will the game suffer? Comment your thoughts and everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.